In today's session of Divorce Court, Sandy Fenton says after 2 marriages and 2 divorces to husband Sean, she knows one thing's for sure: a third time wouldn't be a charm.
He was into abuse and pulling out pieces of my hair, bruising my ribs, poured a gallon of hairspray over me and flipping cigarettes at me, trying to catch me on fire.
Why are you holding your hands so tight? You afraid you may strike?
I'm in trouble now.
So what made you go back on the second marriage?
Because I loved him. Because I know what he's capable of.
You didn't like freedom too well, did you?
I'm a diehard. You know, I want what I want.
Now Sandy Fenton tries to break free from Sean Fenton in today's session of Divorce Court.
All rise. Court is now in session. Maybelline Ephraim presiding. You may be seated.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. This is the matter of Sandy Fenton versus Sean Fenton. I understand the second time around,
Yes, ma'am.
still not working.
No.
Want to try for 3 or you want to end it this time?
No, this is it.
Is that right, Mr. Fenton?
No, over a period of time, there was a lot of trust issues that I was dealing with.
Trust issues on whose part, yours?
No, on my wife's part.
What do you mean by trust issues?
Well, in the past, there had been affairs, and there had been, that's originally what broke up our first marriage. The second marriage was to...
No, Your Honor.
Now, what do you want to say, Mrs. Fenton?
Yes, ma'am. My so-called affairs that I was having,
Yes.
I had a...
You probably didn't call them that, though, I'm sure.
Well, no, because in the beginning, well, everybody does make mistakes. Yes, and I have admitted this to him before, yes.
What do you call the mistakes that you make? Let
Yes,
me hear
I
your
did have an
phrase.
affair, but it didn't start out that way.
So that's a mistake.
Yes, ma'am.
Why do all these adults keep having mistakes?
Okay.
In terms of your own bodies and going out and selecting other men. Why do you call that a mistake?
Ma'am, when this transpired and whatnot, the person that I had an affair with, I run to for refuge. He was into abuse and pulling out pieces of my hair, bruising my ribs, poured a gallon of hairspray over me and flipping cigarettes at me, trying to catch me on fire. Yes,
You tried to burn her alive, Mr. Fenton?
I run
No,
for
ma'am.
safety.
What?
My kid stood there and watched this. My kid stood and watched. He jerked the payphone out of the wall. I took the kids and put them in the car, and we slept in the park that night.
So you act
Remember
like
that?
a raving maniac.
Do you remember that?
The man that now can't
No,
open
you
his
forget.
mouth.
You forget. Poor Sean, you know, like I'm always
No,
been so
I was
bad.
there,
No, I
but
had
that's
reason for everything.
A way jaded version of it.
It didn't happen, or it happened so
It
long
happened.
ago she shouldn't be talking about it.
No, ma'am.
What are you
No.
saying?
I have different memories of how it transpired
No
than what
doubt.
she does.
Usually
no
most
doubt.
people
There's
do
always
when they're
two
the
sides
victim
to every
versus the
story.
perpetrator.
Yes.
But I don't understand. You're saying that you ran to
Okay.
affairs for refuge. Why couldn't you
No,
run
it did not.
somewhere else for refuge? Why you have to run into
I've-
somebody else's arms and start having sex before you divorce your husband?
No, I've spent my time in women's shelters and whatnot with my children. This particular time, this was a friend that I'd known all through junior high school.
So you went to this man for protection. What was he going to do? Kill your husband or something?
No, he was going to save me and my children.
How?
He did sit in the recliner for evenings, probably 2 weeks in a row, with a gun in his hand. Yes, to protect me.
So why'd you have to have sex with him? He's just protecting you.
He was my knight in shining armor, and no, truly, and I got deeper feelings for him, you know, because he was there to protect me and save me from the person that was supposed to love me and care for me the most. You know, that devastated
So because
me.
he had a gun sitting in his recliner for 2 weeks, you said, this is my savior, and now I'm gonna fall in love with him.
No, it was more than that. It was way more than that.
Is that the affair you're talking about?
Yes, ma'am.
That ruined the second marriage?
Yes, ma'am.
But she's saying you're beating on her. What did you expect her to do? Take 2 deep breaths on that one.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. As far as pulling her hair, that was mentioned. Yes, ma'am, I did pull her hair.
Drug me 80 foot
we've
through
got
a
all
trailer.
kinds- we
I want to
have
hear his
done-
version because it's going to be much more milder than yours, I know.
Well, we have we have both done several things in our life that we regret. That was one of them on my part that I do regret. At
You
the
pulled her
time,
hair?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
And that was before the end of the first marriage or after? Is this the
This
first
is
or
in the
second
second-
marriage?
this
That
is in
was
the
in the
second
second marriage, ma'am. We got into a battle.
Got into a
arguing.
battle?
Well,
What
argument.
is this, the
a
war?
heated
Both of
argument.
you at war?
No,
But
ma'am. A
that's
heated
because he
argument.
loves me.
We got into a real heated argument. She said that she was not going to leave, and I said, "Well, you have to. You have to leave. This is not your home. We live here."
Sean, when you
And
She parked herself on the floor.
No,
Be quiet,
no.
Mrs. Fenton. Let him finish,
I tried
please.
to pick her up by her arms to, to get her out.
Tried to pick her up, you mean like grabbed her by her
Yes,
arms and tried to
literally
physically
trying to
restrain her?
lift her up.
And he slipped and got me by the hair instead.
She fought that. Like I said, we all
And
do
she should have
things
just
we
sat there
regret.
and let you pull her by her arms, right?
Your Honor,
Well, at least stand up.
Sean, at the
At least
time,
stand up so that you can leave.
I was sitting on the
Why didn't you
closet
just
floor
wait until she decided
you
to
were
stand
sitting
up?
on
packing
the
my
floor.
things. Packing my things. Do you remember?
Packing your
Yeah,
things
I had
that
a
you
garbage
didn't-
bag trying to get my clothes out of the bottom of the closet. Yes, I was living there then. Yes, and I was trying to get my things. And he says, right now. And I says, I'm getting my
No,
stuff.
he's not going to remember it because
he drugged me by the hair.
his memory and yours is not going to ever be the same.
Through an 80-foot trailer house, he drugged me by my hair. My kids were 12, 13 years old. My daughters have car keys in their hands attacking him to get him to let go of
You
me.
get the children in the battle?
Yes, he did. Oh,
You
yes,
look
he
at
did.
her as if she's talking Greek or something.
I'm in
What?
tr-
You don't believe what she's saying?
I'm in trouble now.
You
You forget, do
you're
you?
not in trouble.
Why are you holding
I
your
have
hands so tight? You afraid you may strike?
No.
I ain't
You don't
scared.
have to put them in your pocket.
just don't know what
made
to
an
do with them.
observation. Hold them tight if that's what you want to do.
Your Honor.
But it was just a nice observation on my part that
Okay.
most people who stand at attention holding their hands that tight, other than Joe, who's trained to do that,
Your Honor.
they're trying to, it's a resistance factor.
Your
No.
Honor.
As I said, at the time we were arguing, and that is something that at this point I very much regret doing, but I can't go back. I can't change it. It's a done deal. I did it.
And you
So
told
that's the second marriage. You
and
pulled her
it
by her
wasn't-
hair.
No, ma'am, it wasn't the second time. That was the one and only time, and it wasn't through down an 80-foot trailer house.
Yes, it was.
It was
Yes,
in
it
the
was.
living
Maybe
room
it
of
was
the
2
trailer
feet.
house.
Sean, it was
about-
out of the middle bedroom, out of the bedroom, down the hallway, through the living room, and out
No, it
to the
was
porch.
not.
And you
You were
deposited
sitting
me
in
on
the
the
living
porch.
room.
Sean,
Well, you know
I
what?
was
It
getting
doesn't
my
matter
clothes.
to me, Mrs. Fenton.
Well,
it's really
No,
irrelevant.
I know,
The deed
I
is
know, but it's
done
just
at any
It's
rate.
irrelevant if it was 2 feet or 80 feet.
Well, that's why I say the deed
And
is
like
done
I
at
said,
any
2
rate.
inches is too
Yes,
far.
ma'am.
When Divorce Court returns, Sandy testifies about the unthinkable conditions she and her kids were forced to endure.
There was no heaters in the house, basically just firewood. From October to March, the house would be totally froze up. I mean, no water.
Impossible.
If you would like to have the judge hear your case in divorce court, call us toll-free at 1-877-311-2222 or email us at www.divorcecourttv.com. Divorce Court is back in the case of Sandy Fenton, who says her husband Sean forced her and her kids to live in a house without heat or running water.
So is that why you're leaving it?
No, ma'am.
Because didn't he abuse you? Wasn't there abuse in the first marriage? That's what I was told in these papers.
Yes. The hair pulling, not to this extent, and the slapping and the pushing, the shoving, the blocking the door.
So
that
what
I
made
couldn't
you
leave.
go back on the second marriage?
Because I loved him. I wanted it to work. I
So if
desperately
you
wanted
loved
it to
him,
work.
Mrs. Fenton, and he was violent during the first marriage, you got a divorce from him, you were able to get away from him, you had moved on with your life and your children, isn't that right?
Yes.
You're free. You don't need another savior. You don't need to run to the arms of another man. But you're legally free to go to the arms of another man if should you choose to do so. Why did you run back to his arms?
Because I know what he's capable of, and I kept praying to God that he
And you
would
knew he was
grow
capable
up.
of almost killing you too, didn't you?
Yes.
How much sense does that make?
None. Our first marriage, for 20 years we lived out on a farm, little weekend farm. Raised chickens and growed the gardens and everything, pickled my own beets and all this. And I did that and raised the kids. Well, the firewood was joint effort on both of our parts. There was no heaters in the house. We basically just firewood, which means, somebody'd have to get up in the middle of the night and get the fires going because the house would be froze. I would say from October to March, the house would be totally froze up. I mean, no water. No water.
From October to March, no water?
That's right.
Impossible.
No.
This went on for 20 years?
No, ma'am.
No, usually about the last probably 10 years during the winters when the house would freeze up.
And this is a marriage that you lived like this for 10 to 20 years?
Okay. And,
Is that
you
what
know,
you're telling me?
and- yes.
And you
things-
blame him for it? Is that what you're saying?
I had 5 children, basically no place to go. It was always bad in the wintertime.
I'm saying, but do you blame Mr. Fenton for those conditions?
No, I blame for the conditions. Yes, ma'am, I do.
Why do you blame him?
He's the husband and the father. Why shouldn't he take care of his family? I was doing everything from the inside of the house.
What should he have done that he didn't do?
Should have got the heat tapes going. Should have kept a job long enough to get the materials to get
So
the
he
place
didn't go to
started.
work?
Not during the winter. He'd be laying asleep on the couch in his bathrobe, either that or laying there reading a book, while I'm out in a snowstorm, you know, looking for
Trying to
things
get some
burn.
wood.
Yes.
Mr. Fenton?
Yes, ma'am.
Your wife just made some very serious allegations about you sitting there letting them freeze in the winter.
That's right.
And you're
Yes,
doing
ma'am.
nothing but sitting there like a hermit. Is that right?
The majority of the time, I would get up twice a night probably and restoke the fires throughout the house.
Green wood that wouldn't burn.
Well,
I'm serious.
Excuse me.
yes, ma'am. It was not a nearly as depraved
As she's
a
making it sound now.
situation. Yeah, how could
Ask
it
my
be?
children.
Are you
How
trying to
could people
exaggerate the
live?
situation
No,
now to
ma'am.
justify the
No,
fact
ma'am.
that you're getting a divorce?
No, ma'am.
Because you
I'm
don't
not.
need to do that.
No, I know, and this is true. I
And
know.
so if it's so-
I could write a book.
But if
you
it's
know?
so deplorable and the conditions are so terrible, then I don't know why you got back into it a second time. You were out of there. What were the conditions that you were in? The grass wasn't as green
No.
when you
No,
went
that-
over after you divorced him?
I always loved my husband the most. Always.
So if you loved him and you went back to him, why are you crying to me now?
Okay, the farm that I put the work into for 20 years, here 2 years ago, he sold it. Okay? I'm living in town.
Did he
and-
sell it without your consent?
No.
Or did you agree to sell it?
No, my name was not on the papers. This was an inheritance of his. The 12 acres was.
The 12 acres was inherited from some of his
From
relatives?
his father, yes.
But you all lived on it for 20 years.
That's right.
And you worked it.
I sure did. The cows, the milk and the goat for the baby milk and the whole 9 yards. Yes, ma'am, I did. When things got so bad, and like I said, the place stunk so bad you couldn't live out there anymore, a friend of mine, a mutual acquaintance of ours that was concerned for me and my children, bought me a $3,000 trailer house. I moved to town. I probably had lived in town about 2 weeks when he followed me. I went and told him, come on, we have a decent place to live now, come with me.
You went back to get him.
Yes, I did.
And he was still on the farm.
Yes,
You had escaped and you were free again.
that's right.
You didn't like freedom too well, did you?
I'm a diehard. You know, I want what I want, and I thought it was repairable and get in a normal living situation and everything would be fine. So anyway, in 1997, he sold the farm.
So he came to live with you in the city in your trailer?
Yes. So he sold the farm. Okay, then there was an ad in the newspaper, and he bought a little shop and another trailer house.
So what you want from me?
I want my name off of the property, off of this property. I've never had a key anyway.
Well, you mean the trailer and the farm and the shop?
Yes, I do. I'm through with it, you know. I want him to, I don't think it's unreasonable for him to buy me out. At least part of the payment, maybe equal to the down payment
What down payment?
that he made on the property, this shop and trailer, that he did with the farm money. I earned some
How
of that.
much was the down payment?
$2,000.
So you want $2,000 part of the down payment back from the proceeds from the sale of the farm?
Yes.
Which he used to buy the trailer.
That's right.
Because you think you are entitled to it.
Yes, ma'am.
Because you worked that farm.
That's right.
Tell me about the farm.
Okay, I would like to. Okay.
You got the money from your father, the farm from your father?
Yes, it was inherited from my father. I've already went over that. I sold the place. At that time, I took, after the fees, closing,
You have
all
30
that
seconds.
stuff.
You really don't have to tell me all that. What'd you do with the money?
Well, the money I split. I give her
Oh,
part.
yeah,
I took
right.
part. I give her like 6. I took 9. I bought her a $3,000 van, a $1,000 washer
Oh,
and
yeah.
dryer. I spent $2,000.
You bought her a van?
Yes, ma'am. Cash money.
We
And-
Why didn't
together.
you tell me about the van? You told me about
No,
the friend
no.
buying her a trailer.
Then
Did he
why
give you
is-
6?
then why
Just
is-
ask, you answer
Yeah.
my questions. I'm asking the questions now.
When divorce court returns, the judge renders her verdict.
What he's done is put you in a better position than you were in. Think.
And an update on the case of Marietta Pearson versus Tyrone Pearson.
I was messing with somebody else, and then he decided that he wanted to come home, and I messed with him 2 weeks later.
Did you tell him that he may not be the father of this child?
No, she never told me that.
I told him that I was pregnant, and I was not sure who the father was.
Divorce court will be back in session in a moment. Divorce court is back in the case of Sandy Fenton, who says she thought her husband Sean would change his abusive behavior when she married him a second time.
Did he give you any money when he sold the farm?
No, ma'am.
Did he buy a van?
Yes, we bought a van, and
Did
it was
he give you any kind of cash from the sale of the farm?
No, ma'am.
Since we have been split, I have had no court order. I have been giving child support every month.
Yep.
I have been doing, I feel, more than my
You're paying child
share.
support. You're paying the note on the trailer that you're in. You gave her
Yes,
money
ma'am.
when you
Yes,
sold your
ma'am.
farm.
Yes,
You
ma'am.
bought her a van that she now says is history and can't recall what she
Yes,
did with it
ma'am.
because it wasn't worth anything. And now you want more.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
That's right.
She wants more now.
Well,
Enough's
guess what?
Enough.
You're not getting any more. You got more than you were entitled to in the first place, and now you're being greedy.
Okay.
You're not getting another dime unless he gives it to you out of his own heart, because this court is not going to order it. The farm was his father's farm. You worked it, but when his father gave it to him, that's his inheritance. He doesn't have to share his inheritance with you, but he says that he did. It's over, it's not
Yo,
yours,
yes,
okay?
it is. It is.
And he doesn't owe you any money from his father's farm.
Well, then he needs my name off of that property, so I'm no longer part of it.
If your name is on the farm, it gives you an ownership interest in it. The new shop that he bought, your name being on title, Mrs. Fenton, means that you have an ownership interest in it. So this time when he sells the shop or sells the trailer, you are entitled to half. So why are you going to ask me to tell him to take your name off? You're not thinking. You're not thinking at all. You're more worried about the farm that he sold, the money from the farm he sold, and that's already gone and spent. What he's done is put you in a better position than you were in. Your name wasn't on the farm at all. But now your name is on this property. Think. This court is going to deny your request. I'm not going to order him to take your name off the property. To the contrary, I'm going to order that he not remove your name from the property. That's for your sake. All right?
Thank you.
Thank me. Court's adjourned.
When divorce court returns, an update on the case of Marietta Pearson versus Tyrone Pearson.
I stayed with her and took care of her for 9 months, thinking that that child was mine.
I knew in my heart that it wasn't his child.
Closed captioning for divorce court provided by. If you would like to have the judge hear your case in divorce court, call us toll-free at 1-877-311-2222 or email us at www.divorcecourttv.com. And now for an update on a previous case in divorce court. Tyrone Pearson said that when his marriage hit a rough spot, he still tried to work things out with his wife Marietta, but then she told him he was not the father of their child.
And he moved out, and I was messing with somebody else, and in this time period,
No, she
I got
called for me
pregnant.
to come home.
Did
This
you
other
ever
guy
tell
left.
him that he may not be the father of this
No,
child?
she never
I
told
told
me that.
him that I was pregnant, and I was not sure who the father was.
I stayed with her and took care of her for 9 months, thinking that that child was mine.
I knew in my heart that it wasn't his child.
Marietta said Tyrone left her without a car and she wanted the judge to give her Tyrone's car. But the judge decided that the car belonged to Tyrone. Tyrone was ecstatic that the judge awarded the car to him, but Marietta was so upset over the judge's decision that he helped her buy a car of her own. Tyrone said he is finally over his anger at Marietta for having a child with another man and realized the child should not have to suffer for Marietta's mistake. Therefore, he still acts like a father to all of Marietta's children. Tyrone is now living with his new girlfriend, and Marietta is very happy being single.
Oh, as far as the judge's decision, I guess she knows what's better for me than I do. I'm not terribly happy about it, but I guess it'll be better in the long run, so.
I think it was a fair and just verdict. I think she was able to see through all the exaggerations, and I agree with it. I think she's done a real good job.
he's still the father of my kids, and we'll have to get along for the sake of the children. But other than that, I guess it's pretty much over.
Hopefully this will give both of us enough closure that we can move on with our lives, forget about the past, and hopefully have a life of our own. Go out there and be somebody.
It's been over for a long time. It's just the mental part, it's been over. But it's just getting the physical part and quit being around each other, you know.